In considering industry status, we'd also like to spend some time talking about the industry structure itself. Specifically, what we mean by structure are the natures of the barriers to entry, the nature of the hurdles that a new company needs to go through to enter that given industry. It's also what is involved with the competitive dynamics in that industry. What level of capital intensity is there? What level of advertising intensity is there? What's the concentration of firms that are competing with that industry, as well as what's the average company size of your competitors? And so by digging in and studying each of these, you get a better sense of what's the landscape that you're going to be competing within. So with capital intensity, we're looking at money. We're looking at, when you're thinking about industries and when you're thinking about business ideas, do you need a lot of money to get started? Or can you get started at a much more affordable rate? A second element to think about when you're looking at this element of structure is the advertising intensity. And that if you're able to enter a market where people are easily swayed, where people can be persuaded via advertising, then it's probably going to be better for you as the entrepreneur. Now, there are some brands that people are in love with. I will only drink this company's product. I will only wear this company's shoes. There's also a brand where people get them tattooed on them. People know that one?
Pepsi.
What?
You get Pepsi tattooed on you?
I've seen people do that.
Really?
You get like free Pepsi for life?
Interesting. There's a different one I'm thinking about.
Harley Davidson.
Harley Davidson. So you have people that are these die-hard Harley Davidson motorcycle fans, and they'll have the Harley Davidson logo tattooed on them. Now, if a customer likes you well enough to get you tattooed on them, you have achieved something. So in that way, again, we want to recognize what role advertising plays and how easy is it to try and capture them or persuade them to you. Now, an awful lot of retail is walk-by traffic. You happen to be near something and you go in. There might be some brands that are a destination. I'm going to get in the car exclusively to go to this store. But that's a bit rare. So you want to think about what role advertising plays and what the relative costs are for that. Company concentration, you want to think about as far as how many competitors are there and what's the typical size of them. Again, we would rather compete with smaller competitors, preferably fewer competitors, but we would rather have many small than a few big. And in that way, competing with a few small competitors is more advantageous for us. Again, it's more of a level playing field for you. So what we see also sometimes is that there's trends emerging like app development. And so there are lots of companies that are trying to build apps. And their apps might be a hit. They might get them up on the App Store, they might sell in great volume, and they're going to have a lot of success, and they're going to hit a home run with that. Or they might build lots and lots of apps just to have none of them really take off. Alternatively, there are companies like Artisan that are building tools for app developers. Meaning that as there are people that are building apps, if I can bring you platforms that will help you in your design, that will help you in refining that user experience, that's a tool for the builder of the apps, I would argue they are likely going to have greater success as Artisan than the average app company. And I think the parallel to this are Gold Rush.
I was thinking the same thing.
What was the Gold Rush?
That was like in 1849.
Okay.
When gold was discovered in California.
Yep.
And many people went down there, but very few became rich. But the companies that made tools or jeans, like Levi, Strauss, became very rich.
Okay, so exactly right. So in the Gold Rush, when you could go to California and walk around and there's gold laying on the ground, where you could sweep the ground and you'd see gold. The thought was, well, everybody should go out there and we're going to strike it rich. And few people did, and I can't name one to my knowledge that did, but some did. But I know Levi's. no Levi Strauss. What did people pan for gold in initially? What did you wear?
Jeans.
Didn't wear jeans. Not before Levi's. You wore your wool pants. Not a pleasant thought. Let me essentially wear a suit. Again, watch these westerns that are set in the early 1800s. People are dressed pretty nice. People are dressed in their coats and jackets and wool pants, and Levi's, with their commercialization of denim and jeans and overalls and such, again, kind of reinvented that industry. And it was Levi's, and it was the people that sold shovels and that sold axes and picks, that sold hotel rooms, that operated the restaurants, that made money in the gold rush. And then they let everybody else chase the gold and chase the end customer. So in that way, again, Artisan is doing something similar. And when we look at what they're doing, we'll take a couple minutes
In today's
to watch
world,
this one.
mobile apps are part of a successful business strategy. So let me ask you something. Are you getting the results you want from your app? Is it driving sales, deepening engagement, or increasing brand loyalty? It should be. And this is why you need to know about Artisan, the first mobile experience management platform that helps you get the results you're looking for. Our motto is simple. Apps are about the experience, and they should be as inspiring, intuitive, and engaging as the devices they run on. Chances are, if you aren't getting the experience right, you aren't getting the business results you want. This is why the app world needs Artisan, because without it, the ability for brands to engage with their customers and manage mobile experiences that actually improve their bottom line is quite the task. Even making simple changes can be incredibly tedious and time-consuming. From writing code to compiling and recompiling your app to waiting on App Store approvals and hoping users will download your updates, it takes a lot of time and resources. Artisan changes all of that by putting unprecedented control at your fingertips on an easy-to-use online platform that gives you near-instant insight into how your customers are using your app and the immediate knowledge of what's working and what's not. Truth is, with Artisan, you can make modifications, test different designs and messages, create personalized experiences, publish updates directly to your users, and analyze your app's effectiveness, all within minutes and all without coding. This means, among other things, you'll be able to make informed decisions based on facts, not hunches, which will lead to better customer experiences and more profitable results. That's remarkable. So if you're looking to wow your customers by crafting amazing mobile experiences, you're looking for Artisan. Bottom line, we'll help you maximize your return on mobile.
So you might have gotten lost in some of the technical elements if you're not a developer, but it certainly sounds good. It certainly sounds like, as a tool for developers, it's going to add value to what you're doing. And so they're having some success with this, and again, it's geared much towards the logic of let's build a tool. This is one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns, which is a crowdfunding platform, and we'll talk about what crowdfunding is, where entrepreneurs went in with a design, and they set out with a goal of raising $100,000 through pre-sales. So not via investors, but from people that would buy the product, would pay them for this product now, and that would come with a promise of them sending you the product once it was built a few months from now. So with this element of pre-sales, you are paying now, typically at a discounted price, if you're willing to wait a period of time, a few months, to get your product. So they had a goal of raising $100,000 for this. They raised $1 million in 28 hours and $10 million to date. And this launched a year ago, May of 2012. So we'll take a brief look at what they're doing.
Hi Kickstarter, my name is Eric. This is my smartphone, and this is my Pebble. Pebble is a watch that you can customize. It runs a lot of cool and useful apps, and connects wirelessly by Bluetooth to your iPhone or Android smartphone. This is our dream team. It started with a prototype built from cell phone parts. That led us to our first commercial product, the Impulse smartwatch for BlackBerry. The number one question we received was, when will the watch work with my iPhone? Well, we're proud to say that we can finally answer that question. This is Pebble. It's the only watch that works perfectly with iPhone and Android smartphones. Pebble is much smaller and lighter than anything else out there. It has a high-resolution e-paper display that looks sharp and readable even outside under direct sunlight. Pebble comes in several different colors: Arctic white, jet black, cherry red, and a fourth color that you could vote on as a backer of the color option. We're really excited about how you can run apps on Pebble. If you cycle, you can use Pebble as a bike computer. The GPS on your phone provides accurate data, letting you view stats like average speed, elapsed time, and distance traveled. If you run with your smartphone, you can use Pebble to easily control your music and monitor your pace and distance. You can even see extraordinarily important messages right on your wrist. It's easy to install new apps on your Pebble. Just browse the Watch App Store on your phone and click Install. Around the house, Pebble makes it easy to see who's calling while your hands are full. You can also control most smartphone music apps like iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, Google Music, and more right from your wrist. These apps are just the start. For the more adventurous, we're launching an open SDK so anyone can build apps for Pebble. These apps can receive data and transmit data to the internet. Pebble has a built-in accelerometer, a vibrating motor, powerful microprocessor, Bluetooth, and a beautiful e-paper display. The battery keeps Pebble running for over 7 days. So that's Pebble. We finished the design and we're just about to start production. But we need help to get Pebble onto your wrist. We hope you'll join us. Thanks.
So what they've done, and the nature of this, and with these platforms like Kickstarter, you can buy this for $100.
That's it?
Is it out yet?
Yeah.
And you get one watch for $100, and they plan to retail it for $150. In exchange for you giving them the money now, and again, waiting from March until September, so waiting about 6 months for it, you get a $50 discount. What they've also done is had a couple of other options. And with this one, it looks like they sold that, and then they may have added some more later, and they sold 40,000 watches at this $115 price point. And so they have all these different levels of what type you can buy and how many you can buy and how many colors. And if you would like 100 of them, they will sell you 100 of them in a mix of colors. Who would need 100 watches? A distributor or a retailer that wants to put this in their store and sell them. So in that way, watch has been around a long time. I'm not familiar with too many watches that do what this one does. Fundamentally, it's extending the display of your iPhone to your watch or your wrist. So it doesn't necessarily have every feature and function embedded in the watch. It just adds a second screen to use the software and the features that you already have on your phone. So pretty novel, pretty interesting, as evidenced by the success they've had with it. But again, they've recognized that the world probably doesn't need another watch company that runs like normal watches do, but there's an opportunity to do something different. And there's not anybody in the market, to my knowledge, that does exactly this. There's Nike that does some stuff. There are others that do some stuff. But again, a pretty novel offering.
How do they get like your messages on the actual watch?
I can't answer the technical questions of it. But they figured out a way to do it. Yep.
So this was, the funding period was only a month, and they made $10 million.
The funding period, they opened it in May 17th is when it opened, and it looks like they stopped taking sales. Actually, let me back up. It looks like it started April 11th, and so they hit their goal that day. So they hit that $100,000 goal that day, but they continued with it, and it ran until mid-May, and they did $10 million in sales during that window, as I understand what they have here.
How does Kickstarter make money off of this?
Kickstarter makes a percent, so I think it's about 6%. So in that way, they make a percentage of sales. And when we look at this crowdfunding market, so now we're kind of going beyond that specific product, and we're looking at the broader crowdfunding industry. We see that based on this chart, there are an increasing and rapidly increasing rate of growth of models like this, where some people are buying product, meaning that I'm going to prepay for product. There are other people that are doing equity. I'm buying into a company based on a website, and I'm putting in a couple of $100, a couple of $1,000. There are lending platforms. There are donation-based platforms. There are microloan and micro-lending platforms. So there's a lot of things going on in this crowdfunding space, and people buy in on it because they either like the product, they want to buy it, they believe in it, they want to put some money in, get the product at a discount, probably be the first person they know that has that product, but they're going to have to wait a little while. And again, that's where in some fashion these tangible pieces come in, where you're not investing in Pebble, you're not lending money to Pebble, you're buying their product with Kickstarter and the campaign that they ran. And so in that way, again, we see a lot of things emerging, and we see the industry changing quite a bit just in a couple of years of what's this dynamic. But what we also want to recognize is that when you go through and you think about this, there are companies that are building software for people that want to start crowdfunding websites. So let me state it a different way. So there is Kickstarter, which is a company where you and I, if we have a product idea, or we want to make a movie, or we want to write a comic book, or whatever it is that we want to do, we can go to Kickstarter, we can post our project, and try and get people to buy via pre-sales or just contribute money to it. Different than Kickstarter, there are other platforms out there that try and match entrepreneurs with people that are prospective buyers or donators. This company has what's called a white label solution, which is kind of a template of features and functions that you can use if you want to start a crowdfunding site for a specific purpose or audience. And an example of one of their customers is the University of Vermont, and that's their platform that they've highlighted here. What do you think the University of Vermont is doing with a crowd-funded solution like this? How are they using the launched product?
So that other students can fund their fellow students?
They very likely may be trying to market something to the student community whereby student entrepreneurs can sell to other students and do it in this kind of pre-sales fashion where you have an idea, you need some money to make the idea happen. People want the product, but they can't buy it until it's made, which you can't do until you have the money. So it gets to be a chicken and egg problem historically, but here this is a novel way of solving it, where people are going to pay you first, you'll use that to make it, and then you'll give them what it is that they bought with a bit of a time delay.
Let's say the watch company, I forget the name.
Yep.
They only got, or Pebble, they only got like, let's say 10 sales or something, and
Yep.
they had a goal.
Yep.
Does the money go back to the person who put it in if they?
Yes. So a lot of these crowdfunding platforms, and again, if you are the builder of a platform, you can decide what the rules are. But typically, if you tell me you need $100,000 to make your product and you raise $99,000, then your product is unfunded. You get no money, and all that money goes back to the people that pledged the money initially. So in that way, again, if it's going to cost you $500 to buy an airline ticket to get somewhere, and you only have $499, you can't get there. So that's the same logic they use. And that you tell them what you think it's going to cost. And you either raise it or you don't. And it's an all or nothing solution. But what we see here, again, with these crowdfunding platforms is they are emerging and emerging rapidly. And again, a novel space. Kickstarter is big, and there are another one or two that are big, but they're a little bit non-specific. What's the problem with putting your ideas up for sale before you have the product?
Someone could steal it.
Someone may steal it. And there are some companies that report that happening. And there are some individuals and or companies that report to Search Kickstarter for good ideas that they want to copy. So is that good or bad for Kickstarter? Pretty bad if people think that, well, I may put something up, but it's probable that somebody might be able to copy my idea, and if they have some money, get it to market before I can. What's the advantage of doing something that's going to be University of Vermont centric? By those students, for those students, in a contained environment. Yep.
People probably won't take your idea, and even if they do, you'll know who they are.
It might be a little bit more of a controlled environment. It might be more of a trusted environment. The likelihood that other students are going to have a ton of money and a ton of existing relationships that they're going to be able to execute on that idea well and quick and before you is low. And so in that way, again, there are other advantages to making it local. What else is interesting about having something that's a very local model from being able to raise funding? What happens when your school does a fundraiser? Who gives you money?
People.
People that live near you or that are otherwise affiliated with the school. So in that way, too, by having something that's kind of a local or a specialized platform, you may be able to more effectively raise money. And again, it's more of a trusted type environment. So in summary, when we think broadly about industries, it really comes down to two fundamental questions. Is the industry at the right stage? Is the life cycle right for you to enter as a startup? Or if you are entering something that maybe is a bit too mature, what are you going to do to be sustainably competitive against bigger firms that are already within that space? The second piece is understanding structure, and it's understanding what types of structures are favorable to startups. And it's rare that you're going to find the perfect industry that's favorable by all measures, but it gives you some sense of the things to consider, the things that to be aware of. It's also the things that you're going to have to compete within and what to expect as you enter an industry.